Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around. It's time to have a little heart-to-heart talk. What I'm about to say is not meant to offend you, but it is meant to compel you and to push you and to prod you along to get yourselves a little bit more prepared. I had intended to make this video a little bit more glamorous, kind of like a little classroom with either a marker board, and I could edit it and put little pointers on the screen, but that takes a lot of time, and I have just been swamped today much more than normal, and I just don't have the time to do it, so you'll just have to visualize the stuff in your head. In doing these videos and talking to people online, answering emails, and the many hundreds of people that I come in contact with personally, whether through our own local community or others, I see people that are preppers slash homesteaders, whatever title you want to give yourself, fall into kind of two categories right now with everything that's going on. We have those that they truly believe in their heart that the end of the world is near, that it's all going to fall apart, and it's just going to be the most devastating thing in the world. And then there's those that say, or maybe they think that, yeah, bad things are coming around the corner, but I don't think it'll be too terribly bad. I mean, we may get by with kind of a 2008 style, recession. Maybe it'll be more like a Great Depression. It could be like a 1930s Great Depression with World War II thrown in there. But it's going to be bad, and we certainly should prepare for it, but it may not necessarily be completely devastating. And while I don't necessarily prescribe to either of those, I would, give them some ear and consider, an absolute complete apocalypse or an upset, a speed bump, maybe more than a speed bump, maybe a few speed bumps. And it's possible that it could happen. But I don't think it's very likely anymore. And I think that we're definitely somewhere in between and probably more to the extreme of what we might be facing. And the problem is with those that think that it's not going to be quite as bad, or that it maybe you're just exaggerating a little bit. Maybe you're taking things out of, you're blowing it out of proportion, right? You're getting a little, it's a little too doomsday. I mean, yeah, things are bad and they're probably going to get worse, but my goodness, it's a little too doomsday at this point. The problem with, and this is what I have realized from personal experience, is that folks that fall into that, and I'm not putting you down. Okay, I'm not putting you down, because you could be right. You absolutely could be the right ones. You could be the ones that are correct in how things play out. But the problem with focusing on that and truly believing that will happen is that I have found that, unfortunately, too many people become a little lazy in their preps. Now, I'm not calling you lazy, okay? I'm not saying you're a lazy person. I'm saying you get a little lazy in your preparations. You kind of take it a little ease. You figure, I've got some food and I've got some ammo and I've got some medical stuff, and, we have chickens and we put a garden out, and we have friends that we kind of hang out with and talk about this kind of stuff. So I think we'll be pretty good. I mean, as bad as it probably will get, I think we'll be all right. And they don't see that things could be apocalyptic, and so they put more focus into it. They don't do that, unfortunately. And so I'm here to say, in all this dribble, is that there is a chance that things could be much, much worse than what you're figuring it will be. And isn't it worth it to prepare in that way? I mean, prepare for the worst case scenario and then hope for the best, and not just prepare for the moderate case scenario. Because if you do, you're not ready enough. You're not ready enough. When you look at the things that are happening right now, folks, I am not aware, and I have, over the last, I'd say, year and a half, 2 years, I have seen several people online say something to this effect, and some of them are very knowledgeable people. And they've actually done a lot of research, not just their opinions, to kind of back up their theories. And that is that there's never been really a time in human history that there's been so much going on a wide global stage, or especially a national stage, but even global stage, as there is right now through all recorded human history. I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of any time that there are so many catastrophic things happening, or so many things that have the great potential for them to be catastrophic happening at the same time. You know, we are sitting on the edge of a potential world war with major adversaries. We've never been in any kind of conflict with this level of adversaries in almost 100 years. Since World War II, pretty much everyone that we have fought as a nation, as the United States, were people that, in the end, were not really a big threat to us. We weren't fighting them because they were a threat to us. We were fighting them because they were a threat to our allies, or assets and resources that our allies had. It wasn't ever that Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam or North Korea or any of that actually posed a real physical threat to the United States. We were fighting them because they were regional threats. And yet now we're looking at least 2 and potentially 4 adversaries that we could end up in a war with, that have the very real potential of bringing that fight here to us on our own homeland. And with their combined forces, have the potential of actually putting a great hurt on us and maybe even defeating us. That hasn't happened in a long time. Our financial situation is probably the worst it's ever been. While there are certainly indicators out there in the markets and in the whole financial sphere that you could say, yes, but this is doing good. True, there are certain things that are showing some positive signs. But this is the first time in all of history that we are in debt at the level that we're in, and that we are going into debt at the levels that we are. In fact, in the last few weeks, we've been going into debt on a weekly basis, somewhere between $65 and $100 billion a week. This is the first time in American history, and one of the very few times in human history, and maybe the only time in human history, where we've seen the amounts, where there's the literal millions of people coming into this country illegally a year, hundreds of thousands a month that are coming into this country illegally. Many of these are bringing crimes and diseases in. Not all of them, I'll admit that, not all of them, but many are. We're seeing Chinese nationals come into this country this year illegally at 2 to 3 times the rate that we've ever seen before, along with Russia, Middle Eastern, African, and many other nations, not just nations that are just south of our border. We're watching the last kind of remnants of a pandemic and the possibility of a new one over the next horizon, even so much that all the experts, including Joe Biden and Bill Gates, because they're such experts, and Fauci also, have said recently that there will in fact be another pandemic. Probably the biggest thing that I like to point to is the fact that we are watching the very moral fabric, the true foundation of what our society has been built upon, be destroyed. It's being taken away every day. That, it really hasn't happened in history with all these other things. And anything that you could point to, well, it has happened, guess what? It ends up in destruction. When you put all of these things, and many others, you know, the Great Reset, the climate stuff, the AI, housing prices going up, debt, individual private debt going up, food availability going down. You put all of this stuff together, it is probably the worst recipe for disaster humanity has ever seen. And if I'm wrong, I would enjoy for you to please point it out to me, that there's not been any time in human history where most, if not all of the planet, is experiencing such catastrophic things happening at once. Because of that, it compels me to prep in a way for total disaster. It doesn't mean that I absolutely believe that that's what will happen. It's possible that we could avert a complete disaster. It's possible that it's just going to hurt for a few months. But it's also very possible that we could be watching the last dying breaths of Western society. And if that does collapse during our lifetimes, you and I will experience things that no humans ever experienced. And if it's not our lifetime, it may be in our children's lifetime. And the things that we are going to go through are absolutely going to be catastrophic. In fact, very biblical, which is why many of us believe that we are watching the biblical prophecies being fulfilled right before our eyes. And so for those of you that are, you're not on the fence of prepping. Like, you may watch channels like mine and others, and you're hardcore preppers, right? Except you're not necessarily putting the effort in to prepare for a complete collapse, a complete destruction. There's still that little hope there that America's just really too big to completely fail, and that at some point we'll be able to kind of pick ourselves up when we hit the ground pretty quickly. And while that, again, that is still possible, I'm telling you, it's becoming less and less likely. We need to be taking this seriously. It's not that much more to prepare for complete destruction. I know it may cost you more money, and most of us are probably like myself. We just don't have it. You know, I set just this past week, and this is just a little personal note, a little bit of our personal life. I was setting last week, doing the budget, the family budget for the month, and trying to figure out, okay, do we have a little extra money? What is the best thing that I could spend the money on? Is it a few boxes of ammunition? Could I buy 2 or 3 ounces of silver? Because right now is a good time to buy silver. At least it's the best time it's been in probably 6 months to 12 months. What could we do? You know, should we take that little bit of money and put it towards food or other supplies? And so I get it. It would be nice for us to just say, oh, I'm just going to get all of these things. And some of you can do that. And I'm not looking down upon you because you can. But the reality is that most of us, really have to put some thought into what we're going to prep. But the point is that we can. And it's not so much the money that's being spent. I mean, that's part of it. Certainly, spending money to acquire the things that you need is part of it. I'm not going to lie to you. But really the biggest part is what's going on up here and what's going on here and what's going on with your fellow community. You know, are you doing more than just kind of hanging out together? You know, do you sit around and you talk and complain about how bad things are, maybe share some knowledge of how to do things, and then not do anything else? Are you actually getting out there and putting some blood, sweat, and tears into getting things done? Are you really talking very seriously about what you're going to do, and then making plans about what you're going to do, and then practicing those plans? Because that's what we should be doing as communities, as groups, tribes, and mags. I know a lot of the content sometimes that I put out and others like me seems a little extreme, but it's not fake. It's not false. These things are really happening. And because they're really happening on a regular basis in so many various areas of our society, that should be a lot of bells and warning signs going off in your head saying that this could be much bigger than anyone thinks. And so that's why you should be preparing more. You can still hope that it'll be a little upset, that it'll be a temporary, transitionary, transitory, or whatever the word that they put out. But you should be preparing for complete destruction, because the way things are going, I think we're going to get closer to that side of the spectrum than to, it'll be a little upset. We need to be getting our houses in order, folks. This is not the time to be playing around. I have no idea how much longer that we're going to have. It could be weeks. It could be months. It could be years. But all the things that I'm seeing and the intel that I'm getting and the stuff that I'm looking at, I don't think it's as long as many of us think. I think that on a spectrum of time, it's probably closer than it is the other way. I think we don't have a lot of time. I'd say over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see a lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff almost has to happen before we get to the election. And then the election is just another stepping stone, getting us closer to that Agenda 2030, New World Order, Great Reset, the beast system. So folks, take it serious. Put some effort into it. If you have a mag, if you're working in a tribe, and you got people that's only interested in sitting around and having coffee and talking about it, I wouldn't wait too much longer for them to jump on board. Move that train along. And if they don't jump on, it's their fault at that point. I know that's hard to do. We have to do that sometimes with our own family members. We would all love for all of our friends and family and loved ones to jump on this wagon, to get on this train, but it's not going to happen. We have a duty and an obligation to our own family. And so in the end, you need to be doing that. Getting your houses in order. Preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.